Hello, darlings. How are you today? Did you miss me? I know I did say that yesterday that I was gonna do a session while I was out, but I couldn't because I'll tell you what I was doing. I was at a event for something called Three Amigos. It's a charity that is combining three different great causes. One called Camp Cowboy, which is a veterans charity down near Killeen, and they do equine therapy. Another one called Third Option Foundation, which is to help the people, the families of the people at Ground Branch and the CIA. If you want to know what that is basically when guys get pulled in from like the SEAL teams or from Delta or from PJs, they go and work with the CIA, but they are not covered basically by the CIA, if you know what I mean, and they're not covered by their parent units. So that's a charity that helps the people that have been killed in action, families of the people who've been killed in action, and another one called the Round Top Film Festival, which is a little film festival that's been started here in Texas, and you gotta love that. And off the bat, I am going to say Wonko the Sane, or as I call him, Wonko the Awesome, coming in with 5 Matthew Marsden channel memberships. He's at Wonko's there. Wonko's saying, we love the mat, we miss the mat, here's a membership. Frankly, it's possibly the best membership you could have, possibly the greatest. Just saying. But I missed you guys. I was going to do a live stream, but it started hailing. By the way, I did very, very well at the clay pigeon shooting. I was very shocked, actually. I was shocked. Third cup of coffee of the day. And on the way back, I should try and find it, but I drove through a Texas storm. And they are no joke to drive through, let me tell you. Crazy, storm there, rain, hail, Hail Mary. I know, actually I was looking and my friend was like, if you see it go like a snow cone going upside down, then you probably in a tornado. And I was like, but we did really slow down. I say me, I was on my own. And, this is what happens in Texas. It was a 4-hour drive. And I did it in one go. Didn't even stop for a pee. How about that? I know. I drove through. It hailed. No. So let me just clarify. The hail was when I was down in Houston. So I had the hail in Houston. There was a little bit of hail, just like pop up on the way back. But the hail was when I was shooting in Houston. So, anyways, all right then. I missed you guys. I always feel very bad when I miss a session, but I'm back. Back is the incredible Ram Animal. Yeah, I've had a lot of coffee. Can you tell? Can you tell? By the way, years ago, when I was doing anacondas in Fiji, I bought all this beautiful palm wood, leather, sofa, leather this, leather that, and all this great like one-off palm wood stuff. And my 2-year-old just went along it today with a pen and just basically destroyed the leather on it. Well, I mean, he didn't destroy the leather on it. He just went, and so I tried to get it off with a little bit of alcohol. And now I need a lot of alcohol because it's changed the stain of the thing. Anyway, woosah, this is what happens when you have a lot of kids. You can't have nice things. You can't have nice things. So, all right then. Let's talk about the conclave, shall we? Because everyone's talking about it. It's very important. Why is it very important? Why is it very important? All right. So firstly, I just got to clarify a few things. Again, going off the top for my Protestant brothers and sisters and also my atheist friends, Catholics don't pray to statues. We don't worship Mary. Let's just get that out the way. We don't worship the Pope. the Pope, as far as the Catholics are concerned, that Jesus turned around and said, "Thou art Petros, and on this rock, Peter, and on this rock," because his name was Simon Peter, "on this rock I will build my church." Now, there's some kind of discrepancy with most Protestants, I guess all Protestants, because then else they'll be Catholic, to say that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant, but it was, and that's why Catholics argue that, just a little bit of context again, I just want to give you context why it's important, is that Peter was the first pope. Jesus gave him the keys to the kingdom. Now, for those of you that don't understand what that means, look at Game of Thrones and think about the Hand, right? So the Hand would run the city while the king was away, right? So that's the same as what Jesus says to Peter. You will run the city. You will run the city. You will run my church on earth while I am away. And we know God is always around, but I'm just saying why Jesus isn't there. All right. So he is the head of the church. And for Catholics, we look and we say every single bishop can trace his lineage. Every single priest can chase their. Hang on a minute. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to start again. For Catholics, every priest can trace their lineage back to the apostles, and in particular, Peter, who was the first bishop of Rome. All right? Because each priest has had his hands laid on by a bishop, that had his hands laid on by a bishop, by bishop, by bishop, by bishop, all the way back to Peter and the apostles. All right? So that's why it is important when you look at the Catholic Church and the tradition of the Catholic Church. And just a pointer on this, for those of you that don't know, that aren't really interested in it or haven't really had dug into it too much. There was no Bible until around 398 AD. So for nearly 400 years, there was no Bible. Okay? So there was, the Catholic perspective is, Jesus says, on this rock I build my church, right? Not on this rock I build my Bible. And this is really important, obviously, in context for the conclave. All right? So Catholics maintain that there was tradition before there was a Bible, and then the tradition, the people in the church discerned which books go into the Bible. And one of the biggest arguments against sola scriptura is actually that the table of contents. What is going on with me today? I need more coffee. That was a long drive. The table of contents in the Bible was written by who? The guys that formed the Bible. All right. So there you go. All right. So another thing about the Pope is we don't have to listen to him as Catholics. I mean, he is a leader, but we don't have to listen to him on everything. So, when Francis came along and he was like, climate change, we said, okay, whatever, because it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. As long as he doesn't speak ex cathedra, which means from the chair of Peter, which means talking about doctrinal issues in the church. And the funny thing is however liberal people have spoken about Pope Francis being, and he was definitely, he came from Argentina. He was like I always say he's like a socialist Pope, right? But he still was very conservative on things like same-sex marriage and abortion and a few other things, right? And everyone thought he was going to change on that. He thought he was going to change on bringing women into the priesthood. He didn't. They thought he was going to change when it came to priests being able to marry and celibacy. Didn't. So actually, when you look back at his doctrinal things, he wasn't that far away from what other popes have been. He didn't really change things, but you have to look at the context within he was raised and where he lived. All right. It'd be great to have a new Argentinian pope now, right? After our guy's in down there doing what he's doing, kicking butt. So, I've written down some notes so that I don't get this wrong. All right, so what happens, right? Well, about 12 to 14 days after the death of the Pope, the cardinals come together. And the cardinals, it's kind of like a kind of pre-conclave phase, if you know, like pre-voting phase. They come together. And then once they're in it, they go into the Sistine Chapel, which, by the way, has been swept for bugs. It's like it's secure. Let's just put it like that. And the conclave holds 2 ballots in the morning and 2 ballots in the afternoon, right? And so this is until a candidate gets a 2/3 majority. Now, that has happened before. It's happened like in one day before, in 1939. And other times in 1800, it took like 3 months, right? So normally it'll be done by this time next week, 2 to 5 days. All right. So what they'll do is the cardinals will write a name on a ballot, put it in, collected, counted, checked, whatever. And if nobody gets it, I mean, if someone gets it on the first try, boom, you got your guy, right? But if they don't, then they go again, and then they go again. And, you know, the famous white smoke that comes out, well, the black smoke is the ballots being burned. And it is a little chemical added to it, so it makes it black. Right? So that's the process. So 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. There's a lot of reflection on that, a lot of prayer. I mean, they if they don't get it after 3 days, if they don't elect a pope after 3 days, right, they can have a day of reflection. All right? A day of reflection and prayer. And then they resume again. Right? And when you get to about 30 ballots, they say, you know what, we're going to reduce the candidates, or we're going to change the majority requirements to a simple majority, right? Because think about it. I mean, you could be going on forever. It's kind of amazing when you think that if there's no real like massive front runners, they could just go over and over and over again. It's kind of crazy. So, good day, everyone. I'm just saying hello to my peoples in the chats again. How are you all? Here to talk about the conclave. All right, so here's the other thing about it, is that you have to take an oath of secrecy, right? They can't reveal any of the details of the proceedings. All right. And so there's a phrase called extra omnes. I said that right, which means gets everybody out, everybody apart from the clergy and staff who swear secrecy. So they're in there together, the cardinals. Now, between the rounds, you can have what's called a deliberation. So they can discuss candidates. You can't campaign for someone. In fact, you have to check me on this. Pope John Paul said that you can't like canvass for it before. So you can't go around and ask, hey, listen, you know, let's get together and let's vote for blah. Right? You can't do that. You can debate it. You can put your ideas out about why or why not, but you can't campaign on it. Right? And there's things like, you know, your theology, your leadership, your global influence, and what the church needs at the time. You know, and I always say actually that the church gets the Pope that it deserves, right? And I think that Francis, this is my own personal opinion, right? It's not reflective of anything. And I know a lot of people get really bent out of shape about this, but I'm not going to get involved in that. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But I think the Pope Francis was massively confusing. Massively confusing. And what you have to think about is the context of the popes that came before him, right? Him within the context of the popes came before him. Benedict, probably one of the greatest theologians of all time, actually. Amazing man. Super brain. Very, very clear with what he has to say. All right? Pope John Paul, amazing communicator. Like, he was the Pope for that era, right? He was the Pope for that era. Good looking. He wanted to be an actor. All right? He wanted to be an actor. So he was great in front of the camera. I'm just saying. It's almost as if, as I've been telling the Republican Party, three of the best people, three of the greatest world leaders in the past 50 years, Ronald Reagan, Pope John Paul, and actually Donald J. Trump, right, have been comfortable in front of the camera. I'm just saying. All right. So let's say one of them gets the majority. He gets asked, well, do you accept it? Now, the funny thing is Pope Benedict did not want it. He did not want the job. He said from the beginning, he's like kind of on the down low. And the funny thing is a lot of people thought that after Pope John Paul, they get more of a liberal Pope. But they didn't. They actually got one who's arguably more conservative. The problem is he looked like the Emperor from Star Wars, right? Like, he wasn't a handsome guy, but he was a beautiful soul and an absolute genius when it came to theology. I believe they called him the Pope's Rottweiler initially when he was going after people, when he was a cardinal. So we're kind of looking at getting a result. I doubt very much whether it'll be in one day. To me, it's probably going to be 3 to 4 days. All right, yeah. Layla Hathaway here is saying about Pope Francis brought a false idol into the Vatican in Pachamama. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm telling Layla, I did not find him. I didn't think he was compelling. I know that there's a lot of people out there that he was very pastoral, very kind of, this is Francis Day, very kind of people's pope, right? Like, he was, that's why he chose the name Francis. So when you become pope, there's been a tradition that's gone back, hundreds and hundreds of years, down to the 10th century, I think it is, that you would take another name. Why? Well, firstly, if you look in the Bible, when God has given a name to someone else, it means a change, right? It means a change. And so that's what it means for popes, right? It says there's a change coming in, and normally it reflects a person that is going to kind of define or give a hint to the way that their papacy is going to go. So Benedict, is very scholarly. You got Pope Francis, that was based on Francis of Assisi, who was very pastoral, was very much out there in the world, wanted to take care of the poor, especially. And that's reflective in a lot of the stuff that he said. I was not a fan of that Pope, but I didn't have to follow him. I mean, you have to pay attention, but the truth is you don't have to follow them. Like, I think the climate change stuff was ridiculous, the vaccine stuff, the immigrant stuff, all that. To me, I'm like, all right, I'm not listening to you on that. I'm just saying, because a lot of people think, you're Catholic, then what the Pope is saying this? And you're like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Any more than your priest saying things that they, a lot of the time, are contradictory to the teachings of the church. Let's just put it like that. So anyways. So the point is, right now, in an ideal world, what we would get is a more conservative Pope. in an ideal world. Now, I'm going to talk to you about certain cardinals that are out there that I believe would be very good in line with what is happening in the United States. Now, that's not saying I want them to be in line with that. It's the fact that I believe that the stance that the United States is taking is more aligned with our faith, our Christian faith. And you can see the way that the left manipulates that, like, oh, Jesus would have been for all immigrants. No. It's not true. It's amazing how liberals become experts on Christ and the Bible when they want to be, and then they just conveniently like leave out everything else that they don't like. It's like when Francis first came in, everyone's like, he's our Pope. We love him. And then he goes, I basically don't think same-sex marriage should be a thing. And they're like, he's our Pope apart from that bit. And then on and on and on. It's kind of funny. Now, yeah, well, I was going to say something and I won't because it'll probably get me banned. So let's talk about the candidates that I think are in a good position and kind of what they would bring to the table. Cardinal Peter Erdo is from Hungary. Hungary's like so based, like we got to love Hungary. And he is a staunch conservative. He's a canon law expert. Now, this is really, really important, right? To be an expert on what the church actually teaches, not what you want them to teach. All right? And he's basically, I'm not going to keep going through every time like what the church teaches, because the church teachings are very, very clear if you want to look into them. It's just that, Francis came along and he was like, almost like spoke in riddles that muddied the waters a lot on these things. But, the fact is that, for example, the church is against same-sex marriage, but of course says you should love those people. Right? You should love them. All right. So let me give you the pros to Peter Erdo. He's 72, by the way, which is good in comparison. I mean, it's it'd be nice to have a younger pope, but we're not going to get that. So he's relatively young in comparison to the rest of them. He's very smart, right? He's renowned for his scholarship. Very, very smart guy. He's participated in the 2005 and 2013 conclaves, right? So he understands the process, right? He's been good in Hungary. He's been good in Hungary, being able to kind of like navigate being, a hard, I wouldn't say hard right, because in the UK that makes you sound like a Nazi, but like a conservative, because clearly he believes in those things. But as I said before, there is nuance. Like, do we as conservatives have compassion for people trying to leave war-torn countries, or we want them to better themselves? Yeah, but we don't want them to come over the border illegally. It's quite simple. Go through the process. All right. That's nuance. It's very nuanced, and I think we could do with something like that, right? Someone that will be very clear in their speaking, but also understand the nuances of the arguments, because the left especially uses religion against us in a really, really dumb way. So it'd be very nice for someone who is the head of the Catholic Church to be able to shoot that down, but clarify, which goes on to the last point, which is the doctrinal clarity he has, right? He will get through. He will cut through a lot of the stuff that Francis put in place. A lot of the reforms that Francis did. All right, because they weren't great. Now, the problem now, the cons, and we're going to get some of these, is that Francis appointed a lot of cardinals. So, although he did appoint some conservative cardinals, he also appointed a bunch of cardinals that are complete leftists, right? So, if they're going in to vote and they know that that guy is hardcore, they're not going to vote for him, right? He actually said something which you guys and me would absolutely go, yes, he's right. He said in 2015, he linked migration to human trafficking. I don't see the problem in that. Don't make me like this guy even more. Just saying. But he's like Benedict. He's very reserved. He's not charismatic. He's not like, bah, bah, bah. I don't care about that. I don't want my leaders to be, ideally, I don't want them to be the result of a popularity contest. I want them to be the best person for the job. And so in Trump, we got both, right? We got someone who's incredibly charismatic, but also someone who's, very direct with his policies and very good at communicating them. All right. His age, 72. Some people might want a younger pope. I would like a younger pope, but I'd rather have a really good one over a younger one. There have been instances when popes haven't lasted very long, so Now, the guy that I really like, I'm going to talk about next. I think this guy is amazing. I think, though, at 79, he's too old, and that is Cardinal Robert Serra. This guy is an absolute star. I've always liked him. He's he's ultra conservative. He criticized Pope Francis' reforms. He's not afraid to stand up. He criticized gender ideology, secularism, and he was he champions. Let me start that again. He champions traditional liturgy. So there was a push under Francis to kind of like push out the Latin Mass. And if you guys want to know anything, if you've never been to the Latin Mass, it is spectacularly beautiful. Every single thing in the Latin Mass means something. The way the priest turns, the way that the altar boys, he has his, takes off his hat, puts it on, the way he moves. Every single thing in that Mass is deliberate, and it is spectacularly beautiful and reverent. And believe it or not, more people are going back to that and actually rejecting more of the jingly jangly. You guys know I hate that kind of music. Jingly jangly jingly. I'm not into that. I want like polyphonic, great music. Gregorian chant. That to me is what I want. Now, his pros is we don't care about this. This is the funny thing, right? Catholics don't care about this, but he's black and he's from Africa. If you've had a look at what's going on in Africa right now, it's amazing. It's the most fertile place for conversions. And of course, it comes from a bunch of people that have absolutely nothing, right? I always think that atheism and is kind of like very much a wealthy ideal, right? So, not that I care, but I do understand what it would feel like for the African continent to see a African pope. I've never thought in the same way. I did not care whether Barack Obama was black or white. It doesn't bother me. I'll never vote based upon, you guys know, I'd never vote based on the color of the skin. I wouldn't make any decisions based on the color of someone's skin. But I do recognize the fact that that might be very encouraging and empowering for the continent of Africa, right? Just would. I understand that. And I think that when they're facing the tyranny of the Chinese over there, they're facing a lot of despots and tyrannical leaders in Africa. Funny that, isn't it? When the colonial countries leave, it normally ends up in chaos, right? So I think that'd be great. I mean, I think he's amazing. I just like him. He's always, I'd say that he's my top choice. He's who I would want. But Erdo and the other guys, they're very solid that I'm going to tell you about. Now, he's a little bit old, which would be a negative for him. He does have massive Vatican experience. He obviously is not afraid to speak out. Very bold, very courageous man. And again, once you face evil like they have on the continent of Africa in the last few years, especially, you kind of get radicalized, right? As in, you speak out. You're not as reserved. I think that because he's like kind of hardcore, a lot of cardinals might not want him, unfortunately. He also wrote a book about promoting celibacy with priests, which is awesome. And by the way, I do want to tell you guys things because a lot of people say, well, what? How could you know as a priest? How do you know about relationships? And I understand that. I can understand that. But priests aren't like, they might be celibate, but they're not aliens, right? They're not from a different planet, right? Like you can analyze relationships and through experience understand what a person is going through. And to me, if you're married, anyone that's married knows you're dealing with enough in your own life, even if you've got a fantastic marriage. Like nothing's all plain sailing. That you might want to have someone that's just focused on his faith, right? That's what I just think. All right, next, another guy. Again, it's amazing. Basongo. And he's from Congo. Another amazing African. Amazing. I would love him as well. He's super cool. He's like kind of pricked up a lot of ears recently with some of the comments he's made, which those of us that actually are proper Catholics, and I mean that, like we're not Nancy Pelosi Catholics and we're not Joe Biden Catholics. We are actual Catholics. Pretty awesome. He's pretty awesome. And he's young. He's 65 years old. He's a good kind of compromise in the way that he supports the traditional doctrine, right? He's very, very solid. But he's also vocal on the environment and human rights issues. And I think that as conservatives, we have to be really careful, right? So what I say to a lot of liberals is, listen, you guys talk about the nature, but if you've never met a hunter, you can't talk really about what conservatives think about nature because hunters are probably the biggest conservationists you will ever meet. Now, those guys do not go hunting a day before or a day after hunting season. They look after everything around them. They respect nature. They have respect for the animals that they kill. They cull because they need to be culled. So I think that what we've got into now is you've got the extreme climate change people, which is clearly BS. But then you've also got people like me. I'm a hunter. I go hunting. But also I'm a diver. I love the oceans. I want the oceans to be clean. So if someone is like ecologically tuned in, that doesn't mean they're necessarily leftist, and it doesn't mean that they necessarily agree with climate change, right? Or climate change. It was climate change. Climate's always changing, right? Especially in Texas, it can change like 4 times in a day. So I think that we can love nature. All of us want to preserve beauty. I mean, we're the ones that are going against these ugly buildings being built, right? And we're the ones that are going against these giant wind farms that get put up that are useless, that kill a bunch of wildlife, and then guess what? You got to bury those giant propeller blades in the ground. It's not ecological at all. We're just sensible about it. We're saying that that's not there yet. That technology is not there. I'm sure that, His Royal Highness Elon Musk will figure out a way to make solar more affordable eventually. But right now, it's just not effective. All right? So it doesn't matter that a cardinal can be outspoken, all right, on environmental and human rights issues. We have human rights issues. Again, the left goes, come across the border, Yeah, but you guys don't care that they're trafficking kids across the border, that they're brutalizing women across the border, that it's better for them to traffic humans than it is to traffic drugs because you can reuse that human over and over again. It is a global problem. So it doesn't matter that they can be for those things. Again, how many times I talked about nuance and subtlety? All right. So I am absolutely not worried about that. And again, if they go too far, you go, don't have to listen to you. All right. So again, his pros, he's African, which would represent the African continent. And I think that would be great. And not because he's black, but because you've got a whole load of people in poverty that are converting in massive numbers, that are surrounded by people that are truly abusing them, and we should look after them. We've kind of forgotten about Africa. He's 65. Could be there for a good 20 years. It'd be good to have some stability, right? We need some stability. We used to have leaders that we could trust. If we got one that's constantly speaking out the right way, boom, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. Just as a touchstone for people. I mean, as someone who grew up in the UK, when the Queen died, that was a moment. That was a moment for a lot of people because she was always there. She was ever present throughout my childhood and into my adulthood. Even though when I was younger, I was anti the monarchy, right? Then I saw her value, and now I'm anti the monarchy again because you've got Prince Charles, who's a complete disaster. William, I like William, and I like Kate. I think she's absolute class. And then you've got the Ginger Whinger, who I thought would be the savior of them all. How wrong can you get? That guy was a disaster. But we need a little bit of stability, right? We need a little bit of stability. I remember thinking when I was growing up, well, we've got Thatcher, we've got Reagan, we've got Mother Teresa, we've got Pope John Paul II. We even had the Dalai Lama back then. We had, I mean, I know he's still around now, but we had these really great cultural figures that spoke a lot of sense for the most part. And it would be very nice to have that again in this rapidly changing world. And not someone like Pope Francis that says stuff, and then I get all my Protestant friends calling me up going, can you do a translation? I'm like, he's a socialist from Argentina. What can I say? All right, now, again, the things that would go against Basungu is that he's a hardliner. Like, he's hardcore. And I love that. You guys know me. I love that. I want someone to stand up for something. I want someone to say, hey, Matt, listen, you got to go on a crusade. That's what I want. I want someone to fight for the faith. I want someone to stand up there and be counted. As you are seeing, the fact that Trump stood up and he said, I don't care about what you guys think. I'm getting done what I need to get done. There's been a mass wave of people coming across to conservatism. It's not because of the rhinos, how weak they are. It's because that Trump is actually an alpha. J.D. Vance is an alpha, and he's standing up, and those guys are totally showing up all the other politicians. Listen, when this guy got elected, this other guy I'm going to talk about, I was like, how on earth could you have elected that guy? That guy is a complete disgrace. He's a muppet. He looks terrible, blah, 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 blah. But I got to give Fetterman his chops, man. I mean, he does not follow the party line. He does what he thinks is right. And I'm shocked saying it. I mean, how many times have you been shocked at Fetterman and you go, I kind of respect that guy now because he's not doing the usual BS that the Democrats are doing. And I would actually, unfortunately, the rhinos align more with, especially in Texas, align more with the left than they do the right. So you've literally got two guys at the top, and the people that he's putting in place that are the real conservatives. You can't tell me that Mike Johnson is. He's not inspiring. Look, even our senators here in Texas, John Cornyn, who's going to be gone, by the way, I can't wait for Ken Paxton to take that role, because he's going to go through those guys there like a hot knife through butter. He's amazing. And he doesn't care what anyone else thinks. And he's been forged after all that crap they threw at him. If only we had more people like this in Texas. You got to understand that people want people that stand up for something. That's why you're having all these mass conversions to Islam, because at least they stand up for something. It might be wrong. It might not be what you agree with, but at least they're steadfast in their faith. And that is to be respected. Anyway, Bisungu is new. He's pretty new cardinal. So that's going against him. And actually the African, it's so funny because when you talk about racism, sexism and all that, go and speak to Africans. Like, I think Matt Walsh did it in What is a Woman, right? When he says, can a man be a woman? And they laugh. The Africans laugh because they're totally based, because they're actually not stupid and they understand real life. Spider Unlimited in the hizzle. Loving the Marsden rant, loving the rant. Spider Unlimited. If you got a membership from Spider, you go over and thank him. Frankly, he's the greatest unlimited spider we have. Some people say he's limited. I say he's not limited. He's unlimited. Thank you very much, Spider. All right, moving on. Okay, now this is a tough one for me, because this guy I really love. I really love. And guys, by the way, if you guys are thinking of coming over to Catholicism, or you're Protestant, you're curious about Catholicism, these are the guys you need to look at, because these are the Catholics, not the insurgents, right? These are the guys. I love this guy. This would be amazing for the United States of America. Cardinal Burke is an absolute rock star. I can't talk highly enough of this man. I have massive amounts of admiration for him. He's another one. Any of these guys I would be over the moon with. Over the moon. He's absolutely conservative, super, super clear thinking, super zoned in doctrinally. He's amazing. And he's American. And we could do with one, to be honest. He's also a canon law expert. So, he knows his stuff. And he's one of these guys that follows the truth, right? He follows the truth. He's not trying to bend things to fit an ideology. Love him. He's absolutely focused on the Latin Mass. I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to offend some people in here if they're Latin Mass goers. I always say this. I love the Latin Mass. I just don't like some of the people that go there, because they tend to be very hoity-toity and look down their nose at you. I told my friends, I'm very good friends with an FSSP priest. I love the FSSP fraternity. They're amazing. But some of the people that go to their churches are very... how can I put it? Narrow-minded. I'm just saying. Still love him. But that is why I don't go to Latin Mass. Thank you, Zeph. It's very cliquey. That's why I don't go to Latin Mass. And trust me, the amount of times I go to a Novus Ordo. So the Latin Mass is the High Mass. It's said in Latin. And then you got Novus Ordo, meaning in the ordinary tongue that most of us go to. And the majority of those are horrible. And actually, I don't even go there. You guys have seen my posts on X about when I go there, and the singers are horrible. You should just say, I'm sorry, just speak, don't sing. The singing is meant to elevate, it's meant to be for God, it's meant to be great. And people go, well, are you telling me that God wouldn't like it? I'm like, God created beautiful things. But if you've never been to a Latin Mass and you're a Protestant, go. But just be wary. It's going to take some time, right? And you'll go, what is all this ceremony? But you'll go, it is utterly beautiful. So, I mean, listen, he ticks all the boxes for me. I'd love him. I'd love him. Him and Sarah, top two choices for me. The cons is he did go after Pope Francis a lot. I say it's a con. It's a con to him getting elected. It's not a con for me. I love the fact. Listen, I go against the grain when I think there's somebody stepping over the line. So he's my kind of guy. So he stood up for what he believed in, which I think is absolutely true as well. But there you go. He went against Francis. So he said his papacy was confusing. His papacy was confusing. So again, he's telling the truth, right? He was basically stripped of roles from Pope Francis. So it would be like the comeback of all time if he won. And I think that he was wrongly stripped of those things. People might argue about that. Oh, we shouldn't say you should be obedient and all that. I don't think being obedient to something that is wrong is a virtue, right? The fact that the world isn't, I say the world, but like, I mean, Hungary's in the same position as us, but America with the Europeans is not very popular right now. Apart from actually the Italians, they're kind of following our way. It's changing, but there might be a little bit of animosity towards an American Pope. And again, I think he'll have limited support because the majority of people were appointed by Francis. So, but who knows? Who knows? I would love that. It would be absolutely awesome. All right, moving on to Cardinal Muller. Again, German. And listen, there's a lot of bad German cardinals. A lot of bad German cardinals. You can look into the St. Gallen Mafia. A lot of them are German. But very often in the face of that, you get someone who's completely hardcore the other way. And he is... So Pope Francis changed... he did reform on giving communion for divorced and remarried people and same-sex blessings. Well, this guy's completely against that. So, he's hardcore. He was former head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, which basically means, he knows the faith inside and out, and he's very orthodox. He knows the doctrine that appeals to the cardinals that are going towards more traditional values. He has a very good presence with intellectuals because his writings are amazing. And he's German. So he's European. We just had a German. You got to remember, like, we had Italian popes forever. Right? Italian. Then we had a Polish one. Then we had a German one. Then we had a Argentinian one. Who knows where this is going to go? I'm actually surprised. I'll be surprised if we didn't get one from Asia, which goes on to my next point, or the next person. But I will say this. He was... Cardinal Muller was dismissed by Francis in 2017 because he criticized Pope Francis. I'm sorry, but for all the people who love Pope Francis, he was just confusing to me. He said a lot of stuff that I don't agree with. So, it's just my personal opinion. But I don't get into the weeds on this because I have very good friends that love Pope Francis. That's okay. I'm just not as involved with the papacy. I kind of like just blocked him out. The downside is he's not very pastoral, but he's very academic. But Benedict was like that. So, and he's 77, so he's getting up there. So, but I think we're going to get someone around there in the 70s. Right now, Liberal candidates, Cardinal Tagle from the Philippines is 67, so he's young. He's very much about the LGBTQ, divorce, Catholics, whatever. They call him the Asian Francis. I think that if we get him, I'm just going to be short about it. We're going to have another, however long, many years of confusion. He's very much like Francis. Just like Francis, Asian Francis. He's just the easiest way to describe him. No, I don't want that. Right. So we're moving into, and by the way, I do want to say, someone said like Pizza Bolla. I wouldn't mind Pizza Bolla because that's just the greatest name in history. Pizza Bolla. Imagine. Pizza Bolla. Greatest name. Yeah, and I think that oddly enough, his age in this instance might limit him, because you got to remember that it's like with a presidency, you can only be president for 2 terms, right? 4 and 4 years. So if you get someone that's like 65, you could have him for 30 years, and that could like radically change things if he comes in and he's like, "Whoa, I want to do this." So there is an argument for a limited age, but there's also an argument against that, which, you want to be in there long enough to make a difference, but you don't want to be in there too long. So, I mean, I would love like Cardinal Burke for the next 50 years so he could live till he's like 120 or whatever it is. I would love that. Because I think that he would really revitalize the church, because people are looking for orthodoxy. I really believe that people are looking for traditional values. All right, Cardinal Parolin, 70 years old, right in the middle of the age, right there. He's a moderate, he was Francis' Secretary of State. He wants like human rights, inclusion, and all that. Now, I'm not saying that inclusion is not a bad thing. You can include people, but say, look, you can be a part of this church, but listen, you can't be a part of this church if you do X, Y, Z. All right? You just stick to the values, but do you see what I'm saying? You can be inclusive, but not agree with the way they live their life, and say, hey, listen, you have to change, or you can't receive the Eucharist because you're in a state of mortal sin. So, this guy is actually very good with diplomatically. It would be the pros. He's very good diplomatically for the cardinals. And by the way, I'm saying the pros for the cardinals on this is that he's an extension of Francis. So a lot of those Francis cardinals will come in and they'll be like, okay, all right, he's the same. He's continuing. Again, he is moderate, so he could get like the vote from conservatives going, well, I know that like Sarah might be too extreme, so I want someone to win, so we'll go for a moderate rather than the lefties getting it. And he's a key Vatican figure, so he's very high profile. He did one of his massive cons is he did a deal in 2018, the China and Vatican, and he was highly criticized for conceding to Beijing. It's funny because, again, this is what I've got to tell you about when they say liberals, right? In 2015, he said that same-sex marriage was a defeat for humanity. I don't think anyone would call anyone who says that a liberal. All right. Again, he's more of a bureaucrat. He's not much of a pastor. Who knows? And he's very, very in your face. And in the past, they've had a lot of like dark horses win. Oh, Jim, there's no way Vigano would ever have any chance again in there. Are you kidding me? I mean, he's great, but they wouldn't want him. Okay, Cardinal Zuppi, 69. Same things again about his age. Pretty young. Very, very about interfaith dialogue, same-sex marriage. Wrote a book, an introduction to a book on LGBTQ+. Worked as a peace envoy to Ukraine, which didn't go very well, let me just tell you, because there's no peace there. He's very much of a pastoral guy. I don't want that again, to be honest. just me personally. I don't want that. He's Italian, you know, pizza bolla. He's an Italian, and so I think a lot of people would like a return to an Italian pope. I don't think it matters. As I said before, I'd love an African pope, and for the reasons I said. All right. What else? Nobody with this guy Zuppi. Nobody really knows who he is. And again, it's this weird thing because like you don't want to be completely unknown, but you don't want to be too known. Very strange. His openness to certain things will mean that he'll get a massive pushback from many people. Like I said, the last guy was like, yeah, you know, I'm very liberal, but no same-sex marriage. Well, that's not seen as liberal. Then you've got Cardinal Braz de Aviz from Brazil, who is 78. Again, he's getting up there in age. Is there a pro? Is it a con? I don't know. Brazilian, it brings in Latin America, right? Brings that in again. You know, keeping with Argentina, Brazil. It might appeal to the Latin Cardinals to keep that going on. He's very inclusive. Again, he's like Francis with that. I hate that word inclusive. It's really become poison, hasn't it? He again, he might be too liberal. Let's just put it like that. And let's look at lastly for the libs, Cardinal Maradiaga from Honduras. You got to do that. It's like when anyone says my name now, I'm going to make sure they go Marsden. Like you say, Madiaga. Why is it they always say that when they speak Spanish names here? All of a sudden they put on an accent. It's very weird. All right. This guy's very liberal. All you got to say is like, this is Pope Francis on steroids. But he's been criticized for financial allegations. Allegations of financial mismanagement in Honduras damaged his reputation. He's basically Pope Francis III. I don't want that. So again, I mean, just to like condense it, you got guys that, again, conservative and liberal, kind of like relative terms. Again, there's nuance. I said this to you before about Pope Francis would come out with stuff and you'd be like, oh, this is such a liberal. And then he'll come out and be hardcore against like gay marriage, which is not a liberal stance, or hardcore against abortion, which is not a liberal stance. So it's all relative, right? And then you've got the guys who are seen as very conservative, and to you and me would be just like, okay, they are just speaking the truth kind of thing. So, geopolitical dynamics are also going to come into play here. I think that Africa, with this explosion of conversions, I think that, as I said to you before, I think that would be smart to bring in an African. Can you hear that? There's a tornado warning. Don't worry, I'm not in a tornado. It just happens now and then. And then I'm sure that there might be, I mean, you're going to have a break, right? You're going to have kind of like the Africans, then the Europeans, and then the Cardinals from Latin America. And I'm sure a lot of them just vote for their own guy. Can you hear that now? It's pretty loud. The age trends again. Some people say, I want someone young. Some will be like, oh, I don't want someone that long, so I want someone older. You know. And who knows? Because nobody really thought that Bergoglio would win in 2013. Wow, it's been that long. I just feel very privileged to have had two great popes and a very, very average, if not confusing pope. So I would like, in line with what's happening in Hungary, what's happening in Italy, what's happening in Argentina, what's happening in El Salvador, and of course, ultimately, what is happening in the USA, I would like to have a conservative pope that it speaks very clearly. I would like that. I would like a conservative pope that was more bold. But guys, listen, don't worry. Don't ask your Catholic friends what's up with this pope, right? Because we don't have to listen to him on these matters if he's a lib. We don't have to listen to him. It's very, very important. Okay? All right, so that was my little update on the conclave. I hope that it was informative to you. Is there, do you have any questions? Are there any questions out there? I've got a question for you. Can you hear that tornado siren? Nutmeg, yeah. Nutmeg just says, did we have this kind of attention when Benedict retired and replaced? I think it's different because it wasn't like a death. I think people were a little bit more like, what? I'm still here, guys. I hope that was a tornado siren, not a 5-minute warning for incoming ballistic missiles. That would be a bit of a dampener, wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think it was just there was a lot of confusion about that. Like, what's he doing? Why is he doing that? A lot of Catholics were kind of, all right, but we liked him. Why is he doing this? Like it was because I don't think it had happened before. So, but yeah, there's always a bit of excitement. I think we just forget about it. I remember where I was when Francis got elected. I was around my friend Margaret's house, actually, when the white smoke went off, and we were like, "Oh, who is it?" So there's that. But I think now, oh, you did. Yeah, I'm gonna. Sorry, this is another thing altogether about my my couch that has a pen on it. I actually cleaned some of it off because it said online it's like use a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Well, don't do that on leather, right? Just don't, because now I've got patchy leather. So I might either pay to get it done or I'll just try and put a stain on it again, get it back. It's really beautiful. If you haven't seen Pacific Green furniture. Spider, I didn't mention Dolan. If you're talking about me, I think Dolan's a disaster. I think the American College of Bishops are a disaster. I was with, we had high hopes for, what's his name in LA? I can't even remember his name now. That's how bad it is. And the bishop in Dallas isn't great either. Oh, what's his name now? Come on, guys, help me. Who's the bishop of... Because he's the main guy in the Conference of Bishops right now. I don't know why I'm brain farting on it. Hello, Governor. Yeah, Riz Kit. It just took some of the color off it. So now it's a little bit lighter, but, maybe when my 2-year-old is a famous artist, I'll be able to sell it for a lot of money. I've got a really great leather conditioner. It's one I use on my Lucchese boots. No, not McElroy. It was another one. Gomez. Duh. Gomez. It's too late now. Where were you before when I destroyed my own couch? Any other questions? Come on, guys. You got to have some questions. I think that I mean, if we get a liberal, we're in for a few bumpy years as well. And I think that our Protestant brothers and sisters need to understand as well, and our atheists, is that it's very important to have a strong Catholic leader. So we need that in the world. We need that in the world, and we need a Catholic leader like that to reinforce our values. Oh, you did. I'm sorry, man. I'm one of those guys when something breaks, I have to fix it immediately, and I just go, I'm gone and done it. So, oh well. I'm looking, guys. No questions. Wow, that's good. I got no questions. Would you like to have a quick chat about anything else? I'm willing to go a little bit long. I've actually got to go on my friend Dana Lash's show in a minute at 1:30 to talk about this stuff. Not that I'm an expert in any way, shape, or form, but I think I kind of give a good like overview from a layman's point of view. Yeah, Mike, it seems that way, doesn't it? It does seem that way. I don't think he stacked the deck like deliberately to get another liberal pope. I just think that that's who he thinks is good. But you never know, right? Because we thought we were going to get a liberal with Benedict, so who knows? I think that Lulu's mum says I have liberal burnout. What do you think will happen to them long term? What, the liberals? What do I think will happen to the liberals long term? A lot of people are getting fed up. A lot of people are getting fed up. A lot of people are seeing that things aren't working, that their standard of living is going down. Oh, Nutmeg said, I've been seeing headlines that cardinals who are followers of Francis are concerned about the possible direction of the conclave, suggesting reversal. Honestly, yeah. Because some of them might be like, listen, we've seen where this goes, because sometimes you think that this is a good thing. Even these very holy men, even these people who are, you got to remember about the way that their brains have been formed and their ideologies have been formed. And, a lot of them are massively pastoral, meaning they want to get out there and want to be with the people. They want to help poor people. They're inspired by people like Francis of Assisi, and so they want to go out and do good, and that's fantastic. But they should never really be in a position of power, because that doesn't always translate. Nutmeg, thank you for that. I love Cardinal Sarah said he has said that the role of the church is not to please the world. How can you not want that, dude? How can you not want that, dude? Comes out and says that. By the way, I'm still like, I'd like to think that I was shocked, but I'm not really shocked at the reaction that people had of Trump pretending that putting that picture out of him as pope, as the next pope. It's like all of a sudden all these like expert Catholics come out. I'm like, you guys weren't around. They're all like clutching their pearls. Oh, it's just the worst thing. And if you go and look on their X profile and look back, they've all got Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, now I've got rid of the majority of the stain, by the way, but now I've got to get in there and I've got to restain it, unfortunately. Oh, Tom's thumb. I would love Sarah. Can you imagine Cardinal Erdo, sorry, would be amazing. I told you those guys would be amazing. Burke would be super cool as well. But I think if I'm looking at the health of the world, I think having an African pope would be amazing. And also, by the way, would shut a lot of people up. Right? Because you get called a racist all the time. And we're like, listen, we don't care about the color of your skin. We don't. It's not a factor in whether you're good at something or not, or anything, to be honest, or what I think of you. But geographically, that's a different thing. If you've got a hotbed of conversions and people that are going through a lot of struggle and strife, like they are in Africa, I think it'd be great. It'd be a great shot in the arm for them. And again, this is because we are all God's children. So it's gonna be interesting, but don't go, oh, if it's one of the bad ones, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And don't necessarily rejoice if it's one of the, I mean, you can, but if it's one of the good ones, because it's going to take time and you never know what's going to happen. This is what, we said about Trump, like give him time to get in. He's got to change a lot of stuff. I think somebody like Sarah would actually unite a lot of people. By the way, risk it for a biscuit. It's funny that I've had 9 kids and now I'm finding out about Art Gummy Razor. You would think I would have thought of that before. Normally, I'm the one that's like dispensing wisdom on how to get stuff out of stuff. Like if you get bubble gum on your jeans, put it in the freezer, freeze the bubble gum, chip it off. See, great knowledge like that. Magic Eraser normally does a lot as well, but so does baby wipes. And you know what's funny? I was getting a lot of the scribbles off because he went like that. Obviously, it's gone into the leather, right? But some on the back of he went like that. And I just went like that with a baby wipe, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Took it straight off. All right, guys. Well, should I do an extra session at some point? Today or tomorrow? Let me know. Because I am in debt to you. I missed one, so I owe you another session. I was going to do one last night. Shall I do another one later tonight? We could have a late night chat. Or tomorrow at this time. Let me know. All right, tell me when. I'm going to sit here for like 3 minutes now, and I'm going to see. So, all right, so we got another one. And when, today or tomorrow? Today or tomorrow. It's probably going to be a little bit later on if it's today. Spider says tomorrow. Nobby says either. Thank you so much, Gator Fanatic. By the way, did I tell you that we got to 15,000 subs? Of course I did. Rachel Penny says tomorrow. Hardy harmonica, you saucy man. The night time is the right time. Tomorrow's less packed with shows. Evening. We see Lulu's mum said evening works. Get my whiskey ready late tonight. I'll be in bed, but I'll watch. Okay, Nikki. Woohoo! Yes, we love it, Gator Fanatic. Oh, yep. All right. Today. All right, watch out. Mikey Dizzle in the hizzle for schnizzle. Gives 5 Matthew Mosen channel memberships. If you got a membership from Mikey D, the great, the one and only Mikey D, and he's got to follow up that, right? He's got to follow that up with, what have you got to follow it up with, Mikey D? Come on, say your thing. And then Joan Lovelace comes in and she's like, no, Mikey D, I will not be outdone. Here is 5 Matthew Mosen channel memberships. If you got a membership from Joan Lovelace, go over and thank her. She's amazing. These are my people. These are my people. We love them. And of course, Joan. It's a beautiful thing. Do you remember when that happened and we couldn't hear it? It was tragic. People were losing their minds. There were people running out in the street. They're saying we can't hear the sprinkles. It's bad. Oh, my boy Gabe is in the house. I got to give props to my buddy Gabe because I've been following his daughter's career. His daughter does stand-up, which is probably the most difficult thing you can do in performance arts. And she just got a residency, which is amazing. Amazing. So right back at Hardy's in again. He's like, no, I will not be outdone. If you got a membership from Hardy Harmonica, you go over and thank him right now. And as Mikey D says, make sure you re-up. Spider's there as well. He's like, and remember, you gotta love it. Thank you so very much. These are my peeps, man, looking after me. We're growing the channel. It's getting bigger. It is. And you guys make it possible. You guys are the ones that make me want to come back here and do this, to connect with you, to have a chat, to see the community growing. I keep talking about this. Keep talking about the growing community. It's very, very important. It's very important because there's going to come a point where we're going to have to communicate with each other here on social media. They are going to try and take Elon out at some point. I don't mean that like kill him, but I know that they do want to do that as well, the bad guys. I'm talking about they're going to want to take down X, which will limit our ability to communicate. So on as many platforms as possible, that's what we're going to do. Yes, remember, hit like, subscribe. And by the way, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, you know, maybe you should do this and do that." I said, "Look, listen, it's not my aim with this channel to get millions and millions of hits. It'd be nice, and I'd like to get there at some point. But what's important is having real people that are invested, that are connected to one another, that we can start talking about our shared values." And how many times have we had on here people turn around and say, "Well, I disagree with that." And then they chat. And then they get a different perspective. That's the way it used to be in the real world, guys. We used to be able to go down the pub and talk. And even if we disagreed with one another, we could say, "Hey, I still love you, man. It's all good. It's all good." It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Hey, Carolyn. By the way, Lulu's mom, Carolyn, I met someone the other day and he was like, "Matt," I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you." He goes, "Matt, we've met like 3 times. So I am the world's worst with that. I have a very, very, very bad memory. How many times have I had to ask if people are men or women on here? It's not because I log into or lock into the people that you are, right? Like your personalities. But when it comes to name recognition or like, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, I'm like, it just goes out of my head. All right, Christy. Ciao, Bella. All right, guys, I'm going to go now because I've got to be on Dana's show in like 10 minutes. So go and watch me on Dana Lash's show. We're going to talk a little bit about Lulu's your dog. Now, hang on a minute. I didn't know that. I thought you had a daughter called Lulu. I'm just saying. Gas Station Burrito, go right now and hit the re-up. Right, Mike D? Tell him. Go and hit the re-up. If you got a membership, hit the re-up because that's the way my people... And then if you want to pay it forward, if you want this show to grow, give some memberships out. But what's more important is that you guys re-up. And that's how we grow. We grow. If you like what I do here. So thank you. I'm not going to try and get out there ahead of my skis. We're building this organically. You guys know, I've said it from the very beginning, right? I've said it from the very, very beginning, is that this is about you guys. It's about you guys run this channel. All right? All right, guys. God bless you. Look out. I might come on later on today. And if I do, I'm going to have a glass of red wine, maybe a glass of whiskey. Who knows? And we'll get real. And we'll just do a chat, right? It'll be just me and you guys, and we'll just do a chat. All right? No, Lulu's mom, thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm eternally grateful. And I did miss you. On Monday. I felt terrible that I couldn't be on. I really did miss you. It's my little shot in the arm. So thank you very much. And remember, I'm going to put it over to you. Remember what? What have you got to remember? What have you got to remember? Who's going to be the first one to say it? Who's going to be the first one to say it? Not what? Not what? Who's going to get it? Oh, you guys have got to be typing fast with those thumbs. Who's going to get it? Oh, Lulu's mom gets it. Oh, look at that. She was faster than you, Spider. I'm just saying. She's faster than you. Zephyr, that you love me. I love you guys back, man. That is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. All right, guys. I will maybe see you later. What I'll do is I'll put up a... if it's tomorrow or today, I'll just put up a thumbnail. All right? And we'll chill. All right, guys. Thank you very much.